right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told, and nobody is more capable than you. Friday! This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 194 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the show. If you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. If the app that you're using to listen to the show allows you to write a review or rate the show, please consider writing a review and leaving a 4-star or 5-star rating. Doing this will promote the podcast growth by updating an algorithm, which in turn will make it easier for anyone else looking for a weight loss or related podcast that is using the same app as you. One of the best things you could do to support this podcast is to literally tell anyone you know that is in the same position we are all in, trying to live a healthy life. Tell them about the show. Show them how to find it. We have a new financial supporter of the podcast. Thank you so much, Nomi, for considering the Ranting Weight Watcher a worthy investment of your time and your hard-earned money. It means the world to me that you would make this investment in me and in this podcast and support what I'm trying to do here. I want to give a special thanks to all of the financial supporters of the podcast. Thank you so much for considering the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast a worthy investment of your hard-earned money. If you are interested in becoming a financial supporter of this podcast, there is a Linktree link in the description of every podcast episode. When you click it, you will be taken to a website where you will see a button that says Become a Financial Supporter. Click that button and you will be given the options available so that you can choose from there. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this. Journey updates. I am down this week 1 pound. Total loss since January 2019 is 183.6 pounds. I'm going to be playing with calories here a little bit for the next couple of weeks just to see if maybe this helps and makes a difference. I did recheck my caloric intake and it suggested that I drop my caloric intake by 100 calories a day in order to maintain weight loss at this point. That is the one drawback for switching to macros, is that it's not automatically done for me. I have to keep it in mind in the back of my head that I need to check this often, and maybe I need to do it going forward. Every time I have a loss, check it again. So last week I checked it and I did it based on this number, this scale result today, because I had a gain last week of 1 pound. So going down 100 calories brought me back to 212. And maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep checking it. As long as there's a loss, keep checking it and see if there is another change I need to make calorically and keep it going from there. So approximately 2 weeks ago, maybe a little more, I was in a workshop. Now, in the side conversation of that workshop, the topic of comparison came up. I was going to interject in that workshop, and then I thought to myself, you know what? This would make a great podcast. And so often that happens to me. I'll interject in a workshop and I'll say things, and then it's such a great idea, or what I say is so great that I would love it to be a podcast, and then I feel like I'm repeating myself, and it doesn't feel organic. It feels rehearsed. So I just decided to stay quiet in that moment and decide that I would speak everything I would have spoken in that workshop on the podcast. And this way also ensuring that I have a lot more time to say what I need to say. Now, saying the word comparison, it's kind of broad, right? I mean, there's a lot of meanings here of what it means. But from a weight loss perspective, we're going to speak about it today. People are often looking around them, at everyone around them. And it's sad because they start to hear the results of other people and automatically compare it to their results. And if they aren't the same, or if theirs aren't better, they start to think things like, oh, well, what are they doing differently here? This is very, very toxic thinking. Because everybody's doing something, and it doesn't mean what they are doing is good. Okay? And what do I mean by that? I mean, there are unhealthy ways to lose weight. You don't have to look far here. My first attempt at weight loss was not a healthy way to lose weight. When I dropped 183 pounds back in 2004 and 5, it was because I mutilated my body, had a surgeon go in there and reroute my organs so that I could lose weight. And meanwhile, none of the lessons that needed to be learned got learned. And that's why 15 years later, I found myself in the exact same position. Because the lessons were not learned. So someone could see me at that time and think, oh man, I wish I would lose that much weight. And meanwhile, they can't see that 15 years later, it all basically came back. Not exactly all of it, but most of it. So I want to concentrate on that for a minute. The unhealthy ways we can drop weight. I've told the story before about a very dear friend of mine in high school. The two of us were made fun of pretty often because we were the biggest kids in the school. And one day he decided that he was going to smoke a cigarette every time he felt hungry. He dropped weight in what felt like days. I mean, I'm being dramatic here. I'm a teenager at the time. This kid went from being my size to being a normal person in what felt like just a few short months. And suddenly he's getting all kinds of attention from girls and everything else. He goes from being essentially a zero, we're being made fun of, to a ladies' man, essentially overnight. And I remember being so envious of him and comparing myself to him, like, why can't I lose this weight? And because he's enjoying life, he doesn't even think twice about what he's done to lose the weight. So you know that I'm 46. Today, he's dead. He's dead right now. You could easily see that he was sick. Now, whether or not that was cancer, I'm not sure. But he's dead right now. I could bet in Vegas right now that his diagnosis was cancer. And it was a direct result of how he decided to lose weight, because I don't know that he ever gave it up. He used smoking to drop weight and is now dead now because I don't think he ever got rid of that habit. The new one that was created. I don't know how many episodes ago, we talked about transference. He traded one addiction for another. Yes, he dropped weight. Yes, we had the perception that he became healthy. And yes, I compared myself to him directly because not only we were friends, we were both made fun of, we both had very similar lives. Both bullied in middle school together, went into high school, and it kind of continued. And then out of nowhere, he drops it. And when I go to ask him, he says, it's pretty simple, Don. Every time I feel hungry, I just smoke a cigarette. I had enough in my head to say, this is not the way I will lose weight. I had enough in my brain, but it didn't stop me from comparing myself to him, knowing that he did it in an unhealthy way. Now, there's so many of you comparing yourselves to people around you, people that sit in the same room as you in studios every Saturday or whatever day you go to the studio. They sit on virtual workshops with you and you see them and hear them talk every week and you compare yourselves to them. And they only present to you the version of themselves they want you to know. Everybody out there is telling some version of themselves to the world, but never tells the whole version of themselves. They never say the brutal truth of every aspect of their life. They only tell you what they want you to know. This is human nature. I'm not blaming anybody and I'm not condemning anybody for this. I'm saying it's human nature to tell you the story that shines a light as the best version that you can come up with. Does that mean they're purposely lying? No, this, again, it's human nature. No one wants to be perceived as bad. Everybody is searching for this idea of acceptance. I mean, in my mind, I could really care less for acceptance because, in this world, there was a man that walked the earth that actually was perfect, and he was not accepted. His name was Jesus. He was universally unaccepted. And in my mind, because of that, none of us deserves acceptance. No matter how much people preach all these things of tolerance and acceptance, because he didn't receive it, nobody deserves it. Back to what I was saying, we have no idea how these people went about losing weight. There are many ways, many unhealthy ways to lose weight. How many people have food disorders right now? Because the minute they finish eating a meal, they go and stick their finger down their throat and throw it all back up again. But you'd never know that. They look good in a bathing suit. That's all you can see. They're walking around in a string bikini, and guys are fawning over them. You never see the finger down the throat. You don't see what happens to the body from continually vomiting 2 and 3 times a day, how many times somebody eats. You only see what you're allowed to see. But it doesn't stop you from comparing yourself to them. People can pop pills. They can now give themselves shots. None of these pills, shots, any medications whatsoever were required to have long-term testing in order to become approved by the FDA. There is no long-term testing done on any drug whatsoever in order to become approved by the FDA. And yet, all we do is use them for chronic conditions. And this is not just weight loss, this is everything. Everything. It was not too long ago I had a prostate issue. And a physician wanted to put me on medication for that prostate issue. He was not treating the core of the prostate issue. He was treating the symptom of it. And he got mad at me because I only took the medication when I had the symptom. Why would I take a medication if the symptom doesn't exist, knowing that you are treating the symptom and not the cause? I was supposed to just take one pill a day for the rest of my life, and God only knows what that pill would have done to my prostate or whatever other parts of the body that would have affected in the process. Because that medication was not required to go through long-term trials before it was approved by the FDA. Nothing is required for long-term use, for approval. And yet, they prescribe them long-term like it was. The minute they can put you on a medication, it is with the intention that you will be on this medication for the rest of your life. There is no coming off of it. We clearly know that type 2 diabetes is the diabetes that can be cured with a transition to a healthy lifestyle. And yet, when you pay attention, when you actually understand what nutrition is, and you see the recommended eating for a diabetic, it makes you scratch your head. Because the food plans created by the ADA seem to only prolong diabetes. Instead of suggesting a high-protein, low-carb lifestyle, they approve the use of diet soda and eating oatmeal and whatever else. Stuff that would purposely put sugar in your body. And you want to pretend that because it's artificial sugar, it's not real sugar, and somehow your body doesn't see it that way. That you're just fooling your tongue with artificial sugar because they said it was safe. How many people make money off of you believing that? The person that makes the product with the artificial sugar makes money. The doctor that you go to see because you're keeping diabetes makes money. The pharmaceutical company that supplies you with the medication that came from the doctor because of diabetes makes money. All of these people are working together to make money hand over fist off of your ignorance. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I now present to you the Ranting Weight Watcher Accountability Creed. If you choose this day to say this creed, you are accountable to me, the author. You are also accountable to all of those before you who have taken the creed, and all of those after you who will take the creed. But most of all, you are accountable to yourself. Now recite with me the Accountability Creed. Nothing can stand in my way because I choose to be unstoppable. My challenges crumble in my presence because I choose strength when I am weak. My insecurities have no power over my life because I choose confidence in the face of fear. I own every last one of my mistakes because I choose growth over mediocrity. The mirror and the scale are powerless because I move forward in spite of the result. Circumstances are not obstacles because I see solutions instead of problems. The demons of my past can no longer torment me because I choose to renew my mind daily. All things are possible as long as I believe, because if God is for me, who can be against me? This is the creed I declare each day. It is about what I do, not what I say. I will learn the work that needs to be done. I will never stop, even when I've won. I will work consistently, no matter the cost. I refuse to believe that all hope is lost. I will work when I want to. I will work when I don't. I will work when they are cheering. I will work when they won't. I will work when it's easy. I will work when it's hard. The atonements that I've made are made with no regard. I will work when it's cold. I will work when it's hot, because choices have consequences, justified or not. When I think I know it all, I will start back at one, because regardless of what I think, the work is never done. And from this moment forward, when times are tough, I choose to believe that I am enough. And we are back. Thanks for sticking with me. And we compare ourselves to each other. We're being misdirected left, right, and center of healthy ways to lose weight. Misdirected everywhere. All we're being shown is how to create or manufacture a scale result. And if you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you must know by now a scale result does not mean healthy. But it doesn't stop us from comparing ourselves to that person, no matter how unhealthy they created that scale result. We never think of how did they go about it. Never think about it. And even if you ask them, whatever answer you're given is the answer they want you to know. It's not the real answer. Everything must be questioned. Everything. People ask me all the time to make a list of the foods I eat. Do you know what starts here? That is the end result of a thought process that got them there. You understand? The end result of the thought process is asking me for the list of foods that I eat. The beginning of that thought process is to compare themselves to my result. Compare their result, their journey to my journey. And they say, well, if I just eat what he's eating, I will produce the same result. I give the people what they want. But eating what I eat doesn't mean you will lose weight. It doesn't mean you will produce remotely the same amount. Your height and your weight dictates a caloric number. And anything above that caloric number will cause you to gain weight. Anything below that caloric number will cause you to lose weight. The bigger the deficit, and you can go from there. So at my size, if I'm eating 2,050 calories a day, and you should be eating 1,500 calories a day, and you start eating exactly what I eat, guess what's going to happen? Instead, I tell you guys all the time, all the foods you eat right now, find all of the foods with the highest number of ingredients. I'm not even talking about what ingredients, just the total. Look, I told the story already. McDonald's French fries have 19 ingredients. If we talk about fried potato, what are we talking about here? Potato, oil, and salt. 3 ingredients. What are the other 16? Why do they exist? Make the fries yourself, use 3, and move on with your life. I'm not telling you not to eat fries. I'm telling you to make them yourself and eat them. Whatever you eat, find an equivalent with less ingredients. Make your transitions that way. Start with the highest ones. If you drink orange juice that has 20 ingredients, you're better off eating an orange. 1 ingredient. Transition your life to get to as close to single ingredient foods as you can. If you eat 10 things and at the end of the day you have 20, 25 ingredients total, you're going to be doing better, considering one food item could have 40 ingredients right now. But instead we go on comparing ourselves to other people. We don't take any consideration to what they did and how what they did may or may not be unhealthy to accomplish the scale number that they accomplished. We never consider that. There's another way. There is another way to compare yourself. And I think this is the most destructive way of comparing yourself of them all. And if I can end any way of people comparing themselves to each other, this is the one I would choose to end. Because it's not typical. You're not comparing yourself to someone else. You're comparing yourself to yourself. How do you compare yourself to yourself? You lost a bunch of weight. You were happy. Maybe you got a little too happy. And then you started to gain weight back. Maybe something happened in your life that caused you to gain weight back. The reasons for gaining the weight back, they don't really matter. But now you are stuck and making zero progress because all you concentrate on is who you used to be. You're comparing the current version of yourself to the past version of yourself. How many times have I said on this podcast, you cannot walk backwards into the future? And if your eyes are on what used to be, guess what you're not going to do? You're not going to progress forward. Comparing yourself to an old version of you is the most destructive way to compare. And people talk about the other way all the time. People talk about it in workshops where they compare themselves to other people in workshops and everything else. And compare the success. They compare the time. Oh, he's been here 4 years and dropped 150 pounds. I'm here 6 years and I dropped 25. All kinds of ways to compare themselves. But they never talk about this way. Comparing yourself to who you used to be. I see time and time again, people are so consumed with who they used to be. They don't even realize that old photo that they look at that they admire so much, like, why can't I just get back to this? Has now become their mental prison. What used to be a happy memory, if you look at the picture and remember the place, where you were, what you were doing, I'm sure that there's a happy memory connected to the picture. But now that memory no longer exists, and all that exists is the body you used to have and the body you have now. The good memory attached to that picture, gone. Gone. And you live in a prison of what used to be. And your obsession with becoming that picture again is exactly what holds you back. Most people never realize they are doing this. They just go on for years and years and months, whatever it is, saying to other people, if I could just get back to this, and showing everybody the picture. If I could just get back to this, I will be good. I'll be happy. I hate to say it like this, but this version of you, the picture you look at so longingly, the prison bars that surround you and you don't even realize it, the person in that picture is dead. No longer exists. And your only way to move forward is to forget they ever existed. You want to think I'm crazy? Go ahead. I was only over 400 pounds twice in my life. The first time, 460 pounds. I dropped 183 pounds in a year. How much of that 15 years did I waste looking at old pictures of myself as the scale kept going up and up and up? Tell me I didn't do the exact same thing as you. Wasting 15 years of my life. Only to get to 403. I know what it is to be there. I was there. Been there, saw the concert, got the t-shirt. You want to pretend I don't know what I'm talking about still? I mean, for God's sakes, the number 183 still haunts me to this day. Still haunts me. If you've been listening to me any amount of time, if you went back and listened to the old episodes, you know that there are numbers from my past that haunted me through the last 5.5 years. The first one was 277 because that was the lowest weight I had gotten to with the gastric bypass surgery. So that was the number that haunted me. The second number was 253 because of an event that happened in middle school where a gym teacher announced my weight loud enough that a bunch of kids close by heard it. How many kids you know in middle school that weighed 253 pounds? So that was another number that haunted me. And another number that haunted me was the number 42. Because in the 6th grade, the popular pants that everybody was wearing, because the biggest size they came in was 42. And in 6th grade, I was already at the largest size they made in those pants. I literally wore them for a year. And then I was too big to wear them. The last number that haunts me is 183. Because 183 was the total amount lost before I started to gain it all back after my surgery. And there's nothing I want more than to be as far away from total loss, 183 pounds. There's nothing I want more. I want to be done with that number. I epically failed. Epic failure. 183 pounds lost in 1 year and gained almost all of it back. From 460 to 277 back to 403. Epic failure. But you know what the truth is of that version of myself? The truth is, I learned nothing. I was not strong enough to keep the result that was manufactured. And that's the same truth for the version of yourself you stare so longingly at. That version of you is dead, and he or she was not strong enough to stay there. Now you want to say, oh, she went through some hard times. He went through some hard times. It doesn't matter. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do to remain healthy regardless of the circumstance. And that version of you was not strong enough to keep it. And you stare so longingly at it, just wishing you could be back there, when in reality, if you just get back to basics, get back to what created that success in the first place, you would not only get back to that number, you would surpass that number and be stronger in the process. That's really what's ahead of you. A stronger, even better version of you will exist if you stop paying attention and living in prisons of who you used to be and start becoming who you're supposed to be. Because that had to happen in order for the best version of you to be born. The only reason you should look back is to learn the lesson from who you used to be. Anything other than that is a waste of your time and your energy. It's time to get serious. You need to forget who he or she was. If you need to, write a eulogy, because that person is dead. Put it down on paper. Write a eulogy to that person and say your goodbyes and be done. Get back to basics. Get back to work and do what's required to become the best version of you, because that version of you isn't the best version of you. The best is yet to come. This call goes out to the warrior in every single one of you. The shackles that have you bound, I declare them broken. The prison cell that you have been in is unlocked, and I declare you are free. Because right now, as of this moment, it is time for you to take your place in this world. No more of this nonsense of you looking backwards. Your fight is ahead of you. Look back only to learn the lesson. The rest of you looks forward. Your story is not yet over. It is barely begun. The fight starts now. Everything that you've ever worked for, everything you're going to work for, all of it is for one thing. For the audience waiting for your story. Every single one of you has an audience waiting for the testimony that is your journey. And you need to stop messing around and stop wasting time looking at your past and longingly seeing what you used to be, and time to move forward. Say goodbye, make your peace, and move forward. Because there's a bunch of people waiting to be inspired by your testimony, and you are holding it back. Nobody else but you. It is time to take your place in this world as the warrior you were always meant to become. Enough of this nonsense. It is time to put your foot to the grindstone and get the work done. Get the work done to become the person you were always meant to become. He exists, she exists, but they only exist if you do the work necessary. I can only say so much here. The rest is up to you. Start today becoming the best version of yourself. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.